You give me someone who's had 1,000,001 victories. They will, like, more times than not, they haven't learned anything at all. You, like, if you give them one loss out of that 1,000,001, they'll learn so much more from it.
Yeah, you know, it's your boy. Yeah. Alright, listen. I started out on the pavement. Bet you thought I wouldn't make it. Wondering why you ain't did it? Cause you only working that day shift. Yeah, success is contagious. We winners on regular basis.
And welcome back to another episode of the P.O.T.N podcast, a podcast dedicated towards people, motivating all of you listeners to go that one step further in your lives. Today, I am joined by a fantastic guest. He's a bit of a superstar. He's the founder of the Day In and Day Out podcast. He described himself as a critical thinker. He's a fitness enthusiast who is showing us the fundamental benefits of exercising for overall health on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. I'd also like to add that he competed in the London Marathon and smashed that to bits as well. I'm very excited. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming my guest, Mr. Muyiwa, to the show. Welcome to the show, Muyiwa. Thank you for joining me today.
Takura, thank you for your lovely introduction. Yes, I will pay you money at some point in the future, but not right now. Yes, like as I say, yeah, it is good to be here. It's good to have, good to be on your podcast for a change because about a year ago, just over a year ago, yeah, we talked. You had epic plans afoot involving Europe. Dare I say it? But how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks. I thank you for joining me today. And yeah, it's going to be a journey we're going to take us both through today. And yeah, it's been well over a year since the last time I ever did anything related to podcasting. But I'm glad to be back in the saddle and, glad to have you as a guest who can, really get to the listeners and really inspire them. So we'll get straight into it. So obviously the first question I want to ask you is obviously an introductory question. Please feel free to tell the guests a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're currently doing, and what you get up to in your free time.
Yeah, my name's Muyiwa Adebiyi. I am the host of the Day In Day Out podcast. It is a 2 episode a week podcast. One at this present time because circumstances in my life has changed. When you have like little ones come into your life, time has become how can I put it, not my own. So once a week I get together the great and the good throughout the world to speak about their lives, their journeys, and basically on different subject matters. That's me on the podcasting side. I do occasionally like to do a little bit of exercise here and there. Yes, I have run the London Marathon for my sins. So many sins. But you find me here today trying to, how can I put it, motivate, inspire people, and get to know a learned man, as they say, a learned man. Yeah.
Absolutely, man, and thank you for that introduction. There, that's a really, it's a lot to take in. But obviously, I'm very glad. Obviously, first of all, congratulations on the newborn. I know, well, I don't know. I can't speak for because I'm not even there yet. I'm not even in that kind of realm yet. But I'm pretty sure it's got its own responsibilities and also commitments as well. But you're doing a great job, I think, and you're adapting to the new situation, which is the most important thing. And like you said, I like the humble approach. You said you dab a little into a little bit of fitness here and there, and obviously you try your best to do the podcasting on your podcast as well. Try to do it twice a week, but that's a very good start to the show. And for those who are wondering, the Day In Day Out podcast, the links will also be in the show notes as well, for those who are interested in checking out Muyiwa's podcast as well. So and I encourage everyone to check it out. It's quite a good listening. And I also got on there and was grilled, and it was a very good experience.
Now, grilled, I think that's a little bit unfair. We had conversation. Like, what made you say grilled of all things?
Well, the questions were really, really good. The questions were really, really good, straight to the point. For some of them, I had to think for a second because I was like, wow, this is an absolutely great question. Now, how do I, you know, meet you at the same level? How do I give a great answer to a great question? I need to take a second to think about it. So it really pushed me to obviously come up with my best answers and also think about it as well, which is really, really good. So I want to thank you for that, because I think coming out of that podcast, it was my first ever podcast as a guest.
Mm,
So it was an eye opener for me as well, because we always learn something new about ourselves. So in that space, I also learned a lot about myself as well. And yeah, I think obviously we'll talk more about it offline, about my mission to obviously to come back to Europe and all that. But I can tell you it's a work in progress, and it's progressing well. So that's all I can say to that.
mm, mm. Yeah, I am curious. What was one of the things you learned from, like, yeah, like for the sort of change around, you not being the host, you being the guest? Just curious.
Oh well, for in my from my perspective, it was like the ball of control had shifted. So I was now the one that had to make sure that the our episode had to be a great one, not the other way around. Normally, it's the guest who has to come up with a lot of how can I say it, the critical, I would say the best answers, right, to make the podcast or make the listeners think, take a second and say, wow, that's a really great answer. And he, like Muyi, was a really, really good guest. And so for me, like, I was always the one that was like the hype man. So like in this episode, I'll be your hype man. Whereas in our episode where you were the host, you were like my hype man, and it was my job to live up to that hype.
Hmm. Well, you know what? Let's see what happens today. Look, I'm here for a good old conversation, as are you, and let's see if we can, yeah, enlighten or educate along the way for both of ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the next question we'll get into, and this one I think I'm also curious to hear the answers to, but can you tell us about your passions, right? And what you love most about those passions?
Now, about my passions, it's one of those things where you can't really, like, I can't really sort of narrow it down to one thing. If I went, oh yes, I'm passionate about, yes, doing podcasting, I'm passionate about learning, I'm passionate about education, it's all I would simply say is it would be a case of, even when putting fitness into it, for myself it's about growth. And I can't really say that is narrowed down to sort of one sort of basic passion. Like, one of the things which has been going through my mind over the last sort of year or so, and I've refined it, it was like, yeah, like health, education, and skill set. Basically, all of these things combining to make you a better person. If you don't have your health, you can't do it. If, like, physically, mentally, and if you're not if you're not concentrating on your education, you can't really sort of go further. And if you're not working on your skill set, you kind of fall behind. But all of these things, like trying to put that into, like, breaking it down to one thing, I think it's all comes down to growth for me. I want to grow as a human being. I want to grow as a person. Like, and it's like where it was more of a individual, like, growing process for myself. Now it's taken sort of a new urgency, with regards to my little one now. Because look, where we are today, and compared to where, like, in 15 years, 15 years time, or like frick, maybe even earlier than that, when she's got some real heavy questions and stuff like this, I'm going to have some form of answer, and I'm not going to be able to just like go, it's like this, come out with some cookie cutter answer. I've got to still be open to learn, grow, develop, so I can help her learn, grow, and develop. Because ultimately, I can only take her so far. Then I've got to let go of the will, and like yeah, whatever craziness or like joy, pleasure, or adventures come her way, it's up to her. But I can help guide with that. And if I can help guide with her, I can help guide maybe a couple of other people and help guide myself. Believe you me, I am most certainly going to make more mistakes than I uh, can actually sort of fathom right now. But you know what? With learning, growing, developing, like yes, health, all of this, yeah, I hope to become a better person as a whole. You know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I like that answer as well. Because when you focus on growth, it's not only restricted to one thing or concentrating on one thing. You're focusing on a number of aspects as well. And obviously, like you said, when you mentioned health, funny enough, like this morning on LinkedIn, I came across a one of those short form videos by Stephen Bartlett.
Oh
So
yeah.
he was talking about health being an important thing, about for him to be there for his businesses, his parents, his girlfriend, and all
Mm,
these other things. He needs to have his health in check, and he needs to maintain that health. So that really like hit me like on the head, because like you said, like health is important. Um and I think last year I've improved obviously quite a lot since then. But like towards the end of last year, I was having some issues with the blood pressure.
okay.
So that I started obviously identifying things in my diet that I needed to take out. I was starting to do like runs in the morning
Hmm.
before I go to my German classes, and also like try my best to sleep more. So yeah, from that point, like I can tell you that obviously blood pressure came down. I also dropped off some weight as well. I'm almost near my goal weight, but like that's obviously continued work in progress altogether. But like yeah, I mean, in my area, I would love to go out and run more, like go out on morning or evening runs. But
Hmm.
like there are a lot of stray dogs in my area. There's a lot of stray dogs. Like I know it's quite surprising for you to hear, but like it's crazy. I think I remember one morning I was just minding my own business, running the route I normally run, and
Hmm.
then this other dog just comes out of nowhere and tries to bite me, I think around the ankle. But luckily I saw it. I saw it from a mile away, and I saw it was following me, because whenever I run, I always peek over my shoulder to see if there's anything behind me. So I saw it, and then obviously I immediately stopped and I faced it. So when it tried to approach me, I approached it. So like I don't know, like in the slang world, like we say, for those who want the smoke, like I wanted all the smoke.
Ah, that is the thing. Like you wanted to smoke and you faced it down. Ah, I like
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite interesting. I think it was trying to see if it was scared of it, but like I wasn't. I wasn't willing to get bullied by an animal, especially a stray one. I think it's another issue altogether that needs discussion in my country. But like it is a risk for a lot of people. That thing that you've just, like, even if you go out on a drive, you could literally drive past at least 10 that are just either sitting outside or
Mhm.
wandering around, or so on and so forth. So it's not the ideal situation to be in, but we know we have to work with what we got. But yeah, I think from your answer, I've kind of gone on a tangent. But like but on the aspect of growth development, and I'm pretty sure it will help you as well with parenting, because you're already somebody who's open to taking on challenges. So this is going to be a new challenge that you're going to embrace wholeheartedly, and obviously go take it in your stride, especially when, because I know children at that, when they're at a young age, they ask either the hard hitting questions. Like they don't beat around the bush. They just ask it like very very genuine question, hoping for a genuine answer. And even when I've had like nieces and cousins, when I was in the UK, ask me questions, I'll be like, wow, you are straight to the point, are you?
Yes. If you want to meet someone what doesn't give any F's whatsoever, you speak to a child and they will basically be, yeah, uh, quite frank and totally honest with you. So, yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So, we'll move on to the next question, and I want. This is obviously to get a better understanding of you as an individual. But who would you say are your inspirations that have made a positive impact on yourself?
Hmm. Who are inspirations? What made a positive impact on myself? It comes down to different people for different reasons. Because like this is the thing. If it's a case of okay, sort of fitness, going out there, getting after it, I would say yeah, one David Goggins. I don't know if you know him. He's a former Navy SEAL. Basically, he did. Oh, good God, he did. What is it called? Like I can't remember what it's called right now. He basically went through like the sort of process of elimination at Hell Week, like twice in a row. I think he's done it 3 times. Only person that, to his knowledge, he says that who's done it. But it's the whole sort of yes, get down, get after it, and like yeah, like put your excuses to the side and like get it done mentality, which I find rather refreshing in a world in this day and age where, okay, being great or excellent in this day and age, depending where you are in this world, especially if you're talking about the developed world, it doesn't take as much work as people think it takes. It just like take all it just is a bit of consistency, bit of effort, and you stand head and shoulders above everyone else in comparison to where it might have been years ago and years before that. Like, and this is not me looking at it through rose tinted glasses. It's just the sort of baseline of sort of excellence and effort has been lowered through sort of society as a whole. But when you're talking about sports and stuff like this, it's a different like there are people which are far beyond that, but generally for everyday people, it has been lowered. So to be like to like go, okay, yeah, I want to be exceptional. Yes, I want to like show up. I'm going to like, yeah, go like put myself through hardship because when life does come with its harsh times, because look, doesn't matter who you are, be pauper, rich, or like, yeah, the most powerful person, the weakest person in this world. Like, yeah, life, like justice will, like, it's like the rain. It will come down upon us all and it doesn't care. So there'll be times where everything will be fine. And then there'll be times where, whew, life will put you through the ringer. Not once, twice, 3 times, put you on your knees. And as you know personally yourself, it isn't easy. And we can make the excuses because everyone like every excuse is an easy thing to like fall to. But we can decide to like go, okay, yeah, this has happened. I can use that as an excuse. Let me stand. And from what I've seen, David Goggins is one of those people to say, yeah, let me stand, you know? Uh, so that's that on the sort of fitness side of things. If I look at the sort of realm of sort of like, yeah, um, podcasting or anything like this, like basically, I can't really just put it down to one sort of podcaster, but yeah, podcasters who are actually sitting down, having these conversations in this day and age, where it's so easy in this world right now to just like fall into one camp or the other. This is my line. I don't need to listen to you because you are left, you are right, or anything like this, and not I can live in this happy bubble. But podcasters with break through that and like, oh yeah, you know what? I don't care if you're left. I don't care if you're right. You've got stuff. You've got knowledge, information I can learn from, I can grow from. By all means, let's sit down, let's have these conversations and like, yeah, figure out what is the best things and what are the bad things. And like, yeah, hopefully the best things will rise to the top and the bad things will like go away quietly and yeah, die. But without conversations, especially in this day and age, whew, all I would simply say is, yeah, it can we can be heading to some brutal times if you don't see it. And I think many of us are kind of so far removed from what true brutality is that we don't kind of understand it anymore or like really know the sort of price or the consequences of it because we are quite sheltered.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think first off, I want to give a shout out to David Goggins. I think he's got an absolute lion of a mentality. Like I have this other clip I have on my phone that I always watch.
Hmm.
You might know it. It's like it's music that's been played from the Rocky movies that's playing in the background, and he's in the car like and they're driving and outside the car there's snow and stuff, but he is dropping a lot of like f bombs and he's talking about like when things um when things don't go to plan, what are you gonna do? When things fall apart, what are you gonna do? And he said there's only one thing you can do, and that's keep going. And then yeah, but obviously he didn't phrase it the way I'm phrasing it. I'm keeping it like PG, like profanity free, I would say. So, but like for him, I've read his book, or about the first two chapters of his book. I need to finish his book. I need to be a better reader, but to see what he's overcome and like how the person he is now is quite astonishing, and it's quite inspiring as well. So, and it's happened to him in a developed country, you say. So that is in itself, like, for me, it gives me the message that wherever you are, whatever your background is, you are capable of overcoming your challenges. You need to obviously build up a work ethic, have a plan. Obviously that plan will deviate in different directions. But if you stick to that one goal, you should be fine and you should reach your target. And on the second point, when you mentioned podcasters who are willing to talk about obviously the bigger issues, the issues that need to be talked about, not like if somebody's whatever side people want to sit on or stand on, whatever it is. I think it is important to have those conversations. Difficult conversations need to be had because people need to understand where each other are coming from and not assume. Because I think there's a quote I saw. I think it was on Instagram or it's on LinkedIn. The word assume. So the person said, "When we assume, we make an ass of you and me." So instead of having all the information or understanding where that person's coming from or their motivations, we assume that, oh, just because they believe in this or they follow this affiliation, that they already think in a certain way, right? But they could have different reasonings for following what they follow. So yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think we learn more from having these conversations. And at the end of the day, for those who are, I think, over the age of, well, I'd say 18, who are capable of having grown-up conversations, they should have them, and be willing to listen to the other side. Or I think that's where it starts. People need to be willing to listen to each other, right? People need to be willing to listen to each other, and then obviously go from there. Because if we peel off all these layers and all these supposed boxes that we put ourselves in, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have hearts that beat, blood that's red. We all breathe in air. We all see with eyes and all that. So it's important we come to a middle ground where everyone understands each other's motivations and really find a balance for respecting each other's beliefs, but also making sure that, like society and everything else remains stable, productive, and like working as well. But
No,
that's it. Yeah,
no,
that's.
no. I
So
was
you're
going to
gonna.
say, I hear you. I understand that. Yeah, by all means. And like, yeah, I think with regards to with regards to people like yourself, I think yes, that middle ground will be found more. Uh, just given the opportunities to speak to different people down the way. Yeah, I'm sure with regards to you and your podcast, which is like come off hiatus and like, you know what I mean, you're back in the mix, which welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm sure, yeah, like you'll be bringing out a number of episodes. Yeah, I have to ask, like, with regards to your current podcast and everything like this,
Mhm.
like, how many episodes are you looking to bring out this year?
This year, I'm hoping we're in March now, so I'm hoping at least every month I know you try and do two every week, but I'll try and do two every month, purely on the basis that I'm still enrolled in language courses, and I'm still obviously I'm working on my like my engineering skills, like the softwares I was using at university and stuff. So to get myself obviously refine my skills and really get sharp in terms of using softwares, understanding the ins and outs and all that stuff. So my time is probably spread quite thin. So I'm hoping to do at least two a month, um, let's see, bare minimum one a month, and then by the end of the year, hopefully we'll have the podcast at, if it's two a month, and then we've got how many months left? We've got nine, so that's 18. So hopefully we'll try and get the podcast to at least 50 episodes at least. So I'm hoping, obviously, in future when I'm now in a better space and I'm able to do a lot more things, I'm hoping to do like you, one episode a week, and then obviously that will up the numbers. And yeah, that's my goal for the podcast. You know, to really just get back, release at least minimum two episodes a month. I'm hoping to do that with yours and another guest episode which I recorded fairly recently, and then also, you know, find um what can I say? Find the best time and place for it so that I could dedicate like a slot for the podcast. So I can record on this day, then I can edit, and then I can upload, and then I can promote it, all in kind of like in the space of, you know, roughly a day or so, because it doesn't really take me that long to edit, and to transcribing does take a bit though. Not like annotating every word we say, but like producing your episode summary, for instance, right? Producing an episode summary of what we talked about, what you touched on, and you know all the other important stuff, like where they can find your podcast, if they want to get in touch with you, where they can do that, etc., etc., etc. So
Mm.
yeah, that is the goal for my podcast, and you know it branches into the next question, which I'd like to find out more about you, obviously to find out from your perspective what has happened. But what would you say is an experience you've gone through that has shown you that positivity still exists in the world and in people?
No, well, basically, you could like say for one, like we all went through it,
Mhm.
2020. Look, the whole thing is like, okay, yeah, people like if you just took a general snapshot of the news and everything like this, you everyone will go, people like the human race are a selfish bunch of individuals who only share, like only focus on their own interests, and they have no time for each other or care about their fellow man, woman, child, whatnot. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, to hell with them. But here's the thing, if that was the truth of the matter, like you would like basically, why is the world not burning right now? If that was the simple truth of the matter, how comes like, yeah, people are like flying out to other countries where like there have been earthquakes, natural disasters, helping each other out. If that was the case, there would be a case of no one would want to do anything to basically keep this society together. We'll be roaming around in sort of huge packs of bandits and stuff like this. Like, yeah, killing, murdering, like raping, pillaging our fellow human beings on a regular basis. It doesn't work like that. And look, you might like people might turn and go, yeah, but what about Russia and Ukraine? Yeah, people like countries will have spats. It's human history, but as a whole, human beings are like for the most part are good. Like human beings are like extraordinary in their realm of kindness. And if you don't believe that and you go, right, oh, that's not true. Yeah, there are examples of where human beings have done cruel and horrific things throughout history. But for the most part, overwhelmingly, they have acted in the realm of good. They have acted in the realm of bringing up their fellow human beings on a regular basis. That's the way I see it. I could be wrong. I'm no doubt people would disagree with me, but you know what? That's how I see it, and I would love to have a conversation with those people who see it the other way.
Yes, yes, indeed. You have the conversation with those people, and like to add on to what you said, like obviously they have been, it's not like we're putting ourselves in a bowl and saying only good things are happening in the world and stuff. We understand that there are other things that are happening, and those things that are happening are not uh what people would class as uh family friendly or anything of the sort. So but like you said, well, for every bad thing that's been done, there have been two or three great things, good things that have been done by people to help others. Like obviously fairly recently with what happened in Turkey, and obviously our prayers go out to all our friends and family and everyone affected by what happened there. But like the global response has been phenomenal. People flying out from all over the world to go and help in Turkey, people across the world donating and trying to put in what they can to help those people. And for me, I think that's a moment where I think it actually happened in mentioned in the previous episode I've done with another guest. I can't recall it off the top of my head now, see, but like in when humans are faced with like the pandemic and also other events as well, you're bound to get obviously two responses. The one being obviously selfish, people acting all crazy, doing all sorts. But then there's also the positive response, people who are like, okay, what can we do to help people? Can we facilitate a an organization or something we can do to get to help those who are not in a position to help themselves and all those things. And we saw it obviously during the pandemic and also post pandemic, and even now with what's happening, people are still helping those who are like, whether they are fleeing from wars or anything of the sort, that people are being welcomed into different countries, uh, different cultures, and people have different perspectives of how they can perceive those people, but they're willing to take them in and look after them and help them get back on their feet. So in that sense, I'd say there is, for all the bad that's happening, there's also good that's happening in the world as well. So I think that's what I'll add on to what you said as well. But moving on to the next question, which is going to be a tasteful question, I believe. But like for you, Muyiwa, right? For all the times you face challenges, can you tell myself and the listeners how you've overcome those challenges and moments of stress that you faced?
Well, it's quite simple. Basically, every time go for a run, every time put yourself through I put myself through stress with regards to exercise or doing something hard. It's a case of there is a constant reminder that yeah, I have faced controlled adversity, and I managed to stick with it, and I managed to navigate those waters with that controlled adversity. When adversity, which comes out through life, which I don't have total control over it. I have the tools and I have the memory of what I did to get me through those things in the past. It might get me, say, 70% of the way, like quite easily, but then the other, say, 30%, which is new or like which is totally out of my control, I can then turn to that, look and go, right, okay, these are the lessons I've learned and this is what I did before. I might be able to take what I took from the control and put that into place, but if I can't, at least I know that, yes, I've got the mental fortitude to actually take on like hardship. I have had the physical toughness to face that hardship. And like, this is the thing. Um, I am so much more than the sum of my parts, where it might be. Because, like, this is the thing. When you are truly in the thick of it, you're in the thick of it. You don't actually, like, you can't, like, well, trying to think rationally often shuts down. And if you haven't gone through these hard times, if you haven't sort of like had these sort of controlling measures, you kind of like, oh, okay. Uh, because you drop into autopilot. And if you haven't navigated those waters, like flown that airspace, you can easily get lost, or you're trying to like get out of the thick of it when honestly, you don't sometimes, when you get into it, you don't know how long it's going to last. And you have no idea which direction is going to be up, down, or what will lead you to the light. It's I think it's one of those things where people just don't do it enough. And I think it's a number of times where people like, and I'm not going to say I'm the most resilient person there is, because there is stuff out there, no doubt, which will bring me to my knees and break me. But you know what I mean, piecing myself back together again, like, you know what I mean, through my own strength and the strength of friends, family, and like people around me, I should hopefully be able to piece myself together and yeah, look to the next day. But I think there's a number of people out there which don't have that resilience. They don't have that sort of like, oh, I've tested myself on X, Y, and Z. It could be a physical test, it could be a mental test, but they haven't done it. So when, and I would say like something comes along in life, which might not be the most heavy thing, they find themselves in pieces from it. So yeah, going into it, like testing myself on a daily basis, testing myself on a weekly basis, again and again and again. And yeah, by all means, if you not don't return to that test to keep your mind refreshed about it, yeah, it's like when you don't do exercise for a long time, you get soft uh, after a while. But that's how I tend to deal with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah, and
think.
I agree. I agree on the point as well, with exercise being the first thing. I think going out for a walk and going out for a run can do wonders for people who are, well, I'll say, have a lot of things going through or flowing through their heads. A walk or a quick run can, or even if they have a stationary bike or an actual bike, going out for a ride on the bike can help as well, because you're in nature. It's a change of scenery, and in a way, you're giving yourself a chance to re-energize and refocus. And I think when you mentioned about going through controlled adversity, that being through controlled adversity helps build up your mental fortitude. And the more you practice it, the stronger your mental fortitude gets. And, in many ways, like you said, there's things that will bring us all to our knees. And this is where, in most cases, we hope that we've got a good or solid support network around us who can help us find the strength to obviously overcome it, or even provide us with ideas or solutions to how to overcome that specific challenge that we are facing. But like I think on top of that, having a network, it helps a lot. Like if you know that, oh, I can always, like for me, I can always reach out to you and also speak to you in relation to podcasting. And also now I can also ask you about fitness as well. So I can reach out to you and ask you about that. And it helps, how having good relationships. And sometimes somebody could say, oh, I don't know how to have good relationships with people. I think it's a matter of, I'd say obviously like do some research in how to do it. There are books that can help you learn how to build relationships. But I think the best way is obviously if you find somebody who is got similar interests to you, discuss those interests, be respectful, listen to that person, and hopefully they also listen to you. And the more you learn about each other and what you have in common, you're more likely to create a connection with that person, and then obviously things go from there. So, and also maintaining those relationships after, because I think we haven't spoken in over a year,
Mm.
and that it's like for me first it feels like we only just spoke like 2 days ago. So, but in that 2 days, a lot has happened.
Oh, indeed, indeed. But like this is the thing. One, like people forget life is a contact sport. And with regards to making those contacts, building those contacts, maintaining those contacts, like don't get me wrong, Jesus. Like if you look at it and go, yeah, like life can get in the way. Look, like I've often said it before and I'll say it again right now. When you're in your teenage years, late teens, early 20s, and you go, yes, we are gonna go out tonight. Who's with me? And like it's like you turn to your crowd of friends and you're like, ooh, and away you go. And you're like, all right. It's like, yeah, you're in your mid 20s, and you go, yeah, we are gonna go out tonight. Who's with me? And you turn to the crowd and go, ooh, it's not as loud as it was in your late teens and your early 20s because people have dropped off, like, yeah, getting married, does traveled, everything like this. And you go, okay. You do it again in your early 30s and you go, yes, we're gonna go out. Who's with me? And it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, no, no. It's like, okay, right. Whereas, like, over half of those people have disappeared, vanished. Like, and you know what I mean? They could be, as I said, traveling, moving. Like, yeah, some people have, like, sadly moved away from the table, and like you'll meet them again sometime in the future. But like, way off in the distant future, I hope. But yeah, but you know what I mean? But when you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, it's like, yeah, we're going to go out tonight. Who's with me? Like, and this is the scary thing, and this is where I'll make a slight amendment. If you're in your 40s and like, okay, depending what your sort of like circumstance in life, you might get like, yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? You will get your ride and die people. Or here's the here's the scarier thing. You might not have any people at all. Because like, hey, people having kids, people like working, people like, you know what I mean, shuffled off this mortal coil. And that sort of loneliness, that sort of like that realm of not being able to talk, communicate, it is a hard and heavy weighted burden, which lingers with some people. And getting out there and meeting new people, easier said than done in some cases. And if you can build those contacts, if you can build those connections, yeah, remember, life is a contact sport. And the more contacts you can have, the more enriched one's life can be. The like yeah, being rich in friends, it sometimes can be painful. It can sometimes be a pain, but it can add to your life with regards to realms of experience and opportunities which live out there. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, and it's quite enlightening and eye opening. For obviously you're sharing your generational wisdom with myself and also the listeners as well.
Generational wisdom. Hey, stop that.
But it's true. It is helpful information. I have a thing. I'll add on to your point. I have a thing of watching videos on YouTube, or if I get a chance to find them on LinkedIn, I do. I watch them as well. But like people who are like in the later stages of their lives, and they talk about their life experiences. And there was actually this other video or videos that I watched by a man. He titled the videos "Old Man's Wisdom" or "Old Man's Advice." If I don't obviously misquote it, but like I would go in there, I'd watch the videos, and I'm like, oh wow, like these are things that I, as a person in his 20s, have not obviously thought of, and I think about them now because obviously I've watched his content, and it helps, kind of give insight to what's going to happen into the future, because you don't want to go like you're on autopilot and then you get to that point and you're wondering and you look around and like, oh gosh, is it just me now, or is it just me and my partner, is it just, or they have the kids moved out and they moved on, now I have to find something to do, that kind of a thing. So it kind of gives people a preparedness for that, because it will happen to all of us. Um, and I think the more knowledgeable we are about it, when it does come, it's not going to hit us like any surprise anyways. But like on top of that, checking in on people. I recently spoke to a friend of mine who I hadn't spoken to in about 4 5, actually a year, like my closest friend from. Oh, in the school system in Zimbabwe, it was grade one, grade two, grade three. But like in the UK, you'd say my friend from year two, I'm still in touch with him, and we talk, and like sometimes we could talk for hours upon end on the phone. And this could happen like once a year or once every 2 years or something like that. But being able to catch up with that person and know that obviously the relationship's still good, and obviously catching up and finding out what's happening in each other's lives and discussing and all that, it's quite beneficial. So
Question: what do you talk to them about?
the friends.
Yes, from like year two.
Okay,
What?
so my friend from year two, his name is Tabo. He's also been on the podcast. His episode is called Tenacious Tabo, for those who were wondering what it's called. So me and him talk about pretty much. He has had businesses before, so he's run businesses. We've talked about businesses. We've talked about life experiences. So his university experience and my university experience were different. He was at Manchester Metropolitan. I went to Hertfordshire and Teesside. So obviously two different. He was in Manchester the whole of his studies. I was in Hatfield, which is close to London, and it's close to Watford. And then I was in Middlesbrough for the last 2 years of my academic study. So being able to share like stories that happened there, I spoke to him about like with the extracurricular clubs we were involved in at university, as well as catching up and finding out like how's everyone in the family doing. Since we knew each other from, gosh, we would I sometimes I have flashbacks about it, like you know all those years ago, used to play in our country, we'd play football during break time. So like from 10 until 10:30, I think, in the morning. So we'd play football at break time, and then we'd eat our food, and then obviously from 11 it's back in class up until our school finished at 1 o'clock. So for me it was just quite interesting, because there was a period that we went without talking. I think it was high school, between I don't know, I forgot the years exactly, but I think it was about 3 4 years we hadn't spoken to each other. And then we reconnected after that. And it was great to hear that obviously he's still the same old guy. I mean, he's made a lot of improvements, he's had life experience now. And I was excited. I was just excited, obviously, to reconnect with him and talk to him. and talk about a lot of things. Sport. His Arsenal are leading the Premier League table at the moment, so we'll see where that ends up.
How do you
Um,
feel about that? How do
huh?
you how do you feel about that?
Well, to be honest, I think as a City fan, we've won pretty much domestically. We've dominated in
Mhm.
England for a long time. Well, not a long time, but like in the last since Pep joined. So that's what 6 7 years ago, and the 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 one piece of the puzzle that's missing is Champions League. So we don't know where that will go, but I'm hopeful that obviously the team can do well. The team can deliver. Obviously, on a lot of things, the team that's there right now is very capable of winning for years upon end. Um, and the structure that City have set up as a club is phenomenal, and I think it's one of the most sustainable in the league. Although obviously there's other stuff that's happening, which is
Oh, what other
investigations and all.
stuff might this be?
That's kind of beside the point. But the whole essence of what I'm trying to say is I'm really happy that my team's obviously. I think I discussed this on your podcast as well, that my team's gone through ups and downs, and the next season, that if they suffer like a failure the season before, they can bounce back from that in the following season. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a massive response from Liverpool next year, when like after Klopp and the club have a chance to reflect on what happened this season, where they fell short, where they can improve with what they did well and all that. But yeah, that's for another time. But it branches into the next question actually, and I want to find out from you what you feel are the most valuable thing or things about failure or going through a failure.
Like basically, with regards to failure, it's the best learning opportunity you can ever have. Look, you give me someone who's had 1,000,001 victories. They will, like, more times than not, they haven't learned anything at all. You like, if you give them one loss out of that 1,000,001, oh, they'll learn so much more from it. The the learning and growth comes from failure. It doesn't come from our successes, strangely enough. If you look at anyone you hold highly or to note in like the world of celebrity, fame, fortune, or anything like this, they have failed more times than the average human being on a regular basis. The only difference is the people who've truly become successful have learned from their failures, or the failures of others. But I would simply say this: there is no failure learned, like lessons learned from when you experience that failure yourself personally, and when you try to go around that failure or like learn from someone else's failure, yeah, you can avoid it, but you don't actually have the sort of emotional feelings behind it. You don't actually have that vibe behind it. Like it's one of those things when you're younger, you know everything, but you've experienced nothing. And from that experience of failure, that's where the lessons are learned.
Absolutely, I agree there. Like you said, somebody can have a hundred, a million. You said 1,000,001 victories, and
Hmm.
they learn nothing, and then that one loss will teach them a lot more about themselves than all of those victories put together. So yeah, I agree, and
Hmm.
it's feedback as well because you're learning what you didn't do right and what you can do better the next time. But this time around, you mentioned like the whole life experience thing. Once you have go through more experiences, the better you get, the better you get at understanding um, how failure is and what you can do to respond from that failure. I mean, me and you both have gone through a number of failures, and you know we've learned from those failures, taken lessons from those, and obviously put that into how we go about doing our day-to-day activities or the projects we work on going forward, knowing that if I have to make sure that like I'm prepared for this, or if this event occurs, then I know how to respond. And if it's something new that occurs, you're like, okay, so this is a completely new experience. I'm gonna take it into my stride, learn about where I went wrong, and then what I can do to be better for the next time.
Mm. Yeah, and like this is the thing. I would also like put on that if you fail, make sure you get back up and
Hmm.
try again. As they say,
Absolutely,
fall
absolutely,
down, fall down seven, get up eight. So yeah,
exactly. I'd add that. Yeah. So we'll move on to the next question, and I'm pretty sure I want to find out from you like what excites you about the future going forward from your perspective.
the future. Like this is the
Mhm.
thing. Like right now, with regards to the future, like how can I put it? I'm kind of like Uh, I am kind of more absorbed with regards to what is going to happen with my like baby girl at this
Mhm.
present time. So like with regards to that sort of aspect of the future, like and basically how I have to play things to basically help support and help her grow as the best individual as possible. Um, so it's like one of those things where, yeah, I'm kind of tightly focused on that right now.
Mhm.
Uh, like, yes, and I think I think it's going to be like that sort of uh, for the most part right now. And I don't know. I think I might be able to get a little bit more of equilibrium with all of that, maybe in a few months' time. But right now, it's kind of like yes, it's all kind of very fresh to me. So yeah, I've got the blinkers on and a little bit of tunnel focus, to say the least. You know.
Yes. No, I understand that you've got one project on your plate right now, and that is I also I can't like I know that obviously raising a child is not an easy thing to do, and it's gonna have its ups and its downs, but like the fact that you are focused on that and you're prepared and ready to go into it and do the best you can obviously to guide your little one through life the best way you can is I think for me that one of the things like from the outside looking in, what I'm looking forward to for you, like how you grow as a person, how you view things as a parent, how you approach things as well. I think that's also, and you're going to learn things. I think we're always learning about ourselves every single day, something new. So you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself going forward uh, with this.
Yeah, one of the things when you go, yeah, being a parent's not easy. No,
Yeah.
no, it can be very easy being a parent. It just means you're a very crappy parent. Yeah, so like this, like if you want to be a crappy parent, yeah, you don't really sort of think about the sort of nuances which go along with it all. And yes, the different scenarios what can play out. The fun and games. Mm.
Yeah. Now, well, we'll see how things go. But like, I want to move on to the next question, and this is mainly a question focused on like how you do things, work ethic wise. But can you tell myself and the listeners what you do to help yourself stay focused and productive when you're completing activities?
Like with regard to staying focused, it's a case of how can I put it? For example, with the podcast, like
Hmm.
getting my podcast started. Yes, I was like, okay, back in 2019, before we ever heard of a thing called COVID.
Hmm.
Yes, it was like, okay, yeah. I was like, oh, I should start a podcast. No, even earlier than that, I was like, yeah. I was in Cambridge. I was like talking to like this guy, like one of the guys in the gym. I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to start a podcast." It's like, "Oh yeah," he worked in a music shop, and I was like, "Oh yeah." Said it. Time ticked along, time ticked along, time ticked along, time ticked along. I was like, oh, it's 2019. Should start a podcast. A year and a bit went by before I actually recorded my first episode of the podcast. It was like, okay, yeah. Stop, started. And then it was like, yeah, sod it. We're doing this. And I went into it just recording myself, first of all, like making sure I could get an episode out a week. Bam, bam, bam. And then it was like, right, I can only talk like to the mic by myself for so long. Then I was like, okay, let's get people on here. Before I knew what Zoom was, using Skype through OBS, like then basically talking to people how to get that on. Oh, it was a mess. Let's just say my first like ever like podcast over the telephone, over the internet was not the smoothest, but it was showing up, making sure I show up each and every week once I got started and keeping that momentum going. And like this is the thing. And like, yeah, keeping that going, keeping pushing forward and like kind of like not sort of absorbed with it, but like yes, making sure it's in like my sort of top 5 priorities to get an episode done a week. And like I would always recommend people doing it once a week rather than say like as you said, you want like it's fine your strategy, like going, I want to do one every 2 weeks. It's a case of like, here's the thing. With podcasting, it's a craft. It's a skill you've got to hone. You've got to get the reps in on a regular basis. If you like, it's a case of if you're not doing it, like the more reps you can do, like yeah, the more you improve. Like I would say this to anyone. Like, yeah, oh, it sounds like I'm recording like an episode a week. Great, fantastic. Record 2 episodes. Like I'm recording 2, record 3. Like, record as many episodes as you can to like, yeah, get yourself competent. Especially if you're just starting out. If you've been like, if you like, I've been in the podcast game for ages. Podcasting's like, yeah, doing exercise. If you haven't done it, or you do it sporadically, you will lose part of your edge with it all. So yeah, coming up, showing up as much like showing up each and every day, like I would say each and every week to make sure you are honing your craft because there's too many like so many people, and this is the thing with podcasts or like a lot of things in life, they will do it 5 times and like because it doesn't work out perfectly immediately, that instant sense of gratification, then they will quit. Like they go, there's 4 million podcasts out there, which are like, you go, oh, 4 million podcasts, that's a huge number. But is it 4 million podcasts? I don't think so. There might be 4 million registered podcasts, but I would say, yeah, active people doing it, yeah, maybe 500,000. That's a that's a hell of a lot smaller than 4 million. And if you look at like a space like say YouTube, same thing. They were oh, there's 100 million people on here. You go right, but actively doing it on a regular basis, showing up, working on their craft, maybe 20 million. Who knows? It's not as big, and people do not stick to it as much as they can. And for myself, I go, yeah, showing up consistently, doing the work at least once a week. Yeah, that's like the bare minimum. That should be the bare minimum. But like, yeah, showing up each and every day if you can. And look, don't get me wrong, time commitments are time commitments, and it's never easy. Look, like I keeping my lady happy, my baby happy, working like 9 to 5, as well as doing a podcast and getting fitness in to that on a regular basis. They go, yeah, where's the time? And like, yeah, got to make the time, got to make it happen. And yeah, if people go, I don't have the time, you've got yourself an excuse. Find something better because, like, yeah, there are other things where you could put your time and effort and energy. And if you want to like grow, if you want to be successful at whatever that thing might be, show up minimum once a week for that. But you need to do more, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I agree with that. And I like the example you use because obviously me and you both can relate to it. And yeah, when you start out in the beginning, in the first instance, you say, okay, I want to do it. And then obviously time can go by. I think once you actually do the first one, then you're like, okay, now the ball is rolling. So obviously it's never perfect in the beginning, but like you said, constant practice and continuously putting effort towards it help, and you see improvements as you do it a lot more. And I agree with that, and it's the same for any other craft. Like, you can't want to be the best, let's say, tennis player, and you're not even going to the tennis courts and practicing, and learning how to serve, learning how to to play all those shots, because there's in tennis, obviously it's a very, very big sport with all
Mm,
these different intricacies about how you can play, how you can beat your opponent, all that stuff. But like, I use that example because obviously it's an intense one-on-one sport where people do have to be extremely skillful to beat their opponent almost every single time. But like, to get to that level, you need to put in a lot of effort. You need to put in a lot of time. And I like the point that you mentioned about if you don't have time, you have to make the time to do it, because you know your schedule better than anyone else. You know that there'll be a window of free time somewhere that you can do this, where you can fit in something that you've always wanted to do, that will help improve your livelihood. And I think it's worthwhile doing it, or dedicating time to doing it, because the more you do it, the better you get, and more likely you're going to reach out if it's in the case of podcasting, you're going to reach out to more people, and inspire or touch a lot of people who may also want to improve life for themselves as well. So I think it's important, like you said, to you know once you dream of doing something or think about doing something, don't wait. Uh, do it to start with. It won't be perfect in the beginning, but you get better with time. And like you said, you started recording yourself, and then you moved on to guests. And obviously, the first experience with that wasn't perfect, but that didn't get you down. And you decided, obviously, you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep pushing. All of those things. So I think for from that, the listeners can really take that. Once you if you want to do something, get committed. When you start, it's not going to be perfect, but you improve with time. Be patient. There's no instant gratification. You have to grind out to get that gratification, and enjoy the process. I'd say enjoy the process of becoming a better person, growing an essential life skill as well, whatever it is. So that's what I would say to add on to what you said.
mm. I hear you. I hear you. And like, this is the thing. No, 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 very valid point. But with regards to yourself, like,
Hmm.
yes, like you've like, okay, you're a man who's like learned a number of languages, and like, yeah, when we last spoke, you were like working on your German. How is that going? I got to ask. I have to know.
Yes, yes, yes. So the German has progressed quite well, and so I've completed the first course, and recently sat the exam, which I passed very
Nice.
well. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so I'm now at the next level of the language, which is obviously more work. But I've kind of gone out ahead of myself to know what's coming in the next level of the language, and I've subsequently practiced all of the things that are mentioned in it beforehand, before the class started, so that at least if I come across any questions before, I can always ask the teacher during the class or after class, saying, "Oh, I tried attempting to do this topic. Can you explain to me on this, why is the, let's say, sentence structure, why is it structured like this and not like that, and so on and so forth. Because German itself, it's I'd say, because there are a lot of languages that people classify as hard. German is a difficult language to learn, and I think people listening in can agree, or watching the video, our interview on YouTube, can also vouch to that. But at the same time as well, the other languages that trump German in terms of difficulty. So it is very, very interesting. Um, I think during that time last year, I did a short course on Korean and managed to learn how to introduce myself in Korean, and it was quite interesting. And I think the only thing I needed to really do with Korean is learn um, their I'm not sure what it's called, but like the written glyphics of their language. In I know in Chinese it's called Hanja, and in Japanese it's called Kanji. But like learning that and knowing how to take different pieces of that to combine and create new words, I think that was something that I hadn't got to, because obviously the course, that's where it kind of finished. So I'm hoping obviously to go back and do it, but I'd like to do it obviously in a place where I know that, okay, I've got a routine. I go to the gym and do all of these other things, and I'm still learning the German language. And in my free time, I've got a dedicated slot to picking up more basics of the Korean language. I've obviously reached out to language partners on Tandem, but obviously I have my reservations about that. I prefer obviously to work with an actual uh, teacher. I think working with an actual teacher that you are, paying for their time is a lot more beneficial, because they once you commit, once they commit to you and you commit to them, there's a relationship there. There's an accountability partner, and it's not like with Tandem. I'll tell you one experience. Like, you could meet somebody who is like who speaks, let's say, Portuguese, and they're really excited about learning English, improving their English, and then subsequently I'm also interested about improving and actually learning how to speak Portuguese as well. And you know the first 2 days, there's energy, there's enthusiasm, and then on the third day the person disappears. Like, you could send them a message and say, okay, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in the last 2 3 days. What's going on? And you don't hear back from them. And that's a tendency that happens on Tandem quite a lot, because you connect with different people. There's all sorts of people on there, who are looking to learn different languages and who are excited. And there's that aspect of, okay, people have different things. Obviously life comes at you fast. Life comes at us fast. Things happen and all that. People have their commitments. And you know I think like it touches back into what you said about like how it helps you, how committing to your podcast has helped you become a better podcaster subsequent, and how helped you improve in other areas of your life. I think people uh, have, want to be better, want to improve, want to learn different languages, for instance. But sometimes forgetting, and or losing interest can happen, which is not what. If you want to learn a new language, you shouldn't lose interest. That's language learning 101. If you want to learn a language,
Yeah,
never
quick
lose interest.
question. Do you, like,
Yes.
on Tandem, do you have to pay for Tandem, or is it free?
Right. So for on Tandem, there's two options. So there's a paid option. I'm not really sure what you get from the premium if you pay for their membership. I think you're able to reach out to more people, whereas
Okay,
with the free version, you're kind of limited.
wait. With on the paid version, does the person you're like trying to learn from,
Uh,
do they get some of that money or not?
no, on Tandem that doesn't work. So I
Mm.
use italki. to speak with obviously with teachers who are certified in teaching the language.
Yeah.
So they've got, obviously people charge different prices for different services, but I feel like once you've got a teacher and you find an appropriate time slot, that teacher's committed to teaching you because they're on there to teach you their language, right? And you're there to learn their language. So I think it's a fair exchange. And yes, that's their livelihood. They're teaching, let's say, German or Spanish or whatever, and I'm paying for a lesson to learn more about Spanish, the grammar, sentence construction, all those things. So I think it's a beneficial exchange. And it's more consistent than you find a language partner. This is my take, this is my opinion, that it's far easier to work with the teacher than finding a tandem partner, because with tandem partners, you know one week somebody's there, the other week they're extremely busy. I think I've got one example, and obviously we've strayed off course a bit, but like I'll just say the story before we get back on track. But like I was talking to a very humble and a very respectful gentleman from Brazil, and he was telling me all about Brazilian culture, obviously the different states of Brazil, and if I was to visit Brazil, where I could visit, if I visit, what to look out for, things of that nature. So it's like if you were to ask me about visiting Zimbabwe, for instance, I'd be able to like tell you about, like, okay, if you want to visit Zimbabwe, sure do. There's certain places in the capital city that you can visit. There's the Victoria Falls, there's Great Zimbabwe, there's Bulawayo, the second biggest city, and so on and so forth. So I could talk you through that. So that's what he was doing for me. And I think there was a time where he said to me that, okay, for a week or so, you won't hear from me because I'm going on a business trip or something of that nature. And we hadn't spoke for a week or so. Then I reached out to him and he was able to communicate for a bit and all that. But then, the conversation kind of ended there. I'm still connected with him. I think, we haven't spoken in a while, but, he's somebody who, in the short time we spoke, we managed to learn a lot about each other's countries, cultures. He also encouraged me to visit Angola and Mozambique, where Portuguese is also spoken in Africa. So that could be on my radar in terms of traveling for the Portuguese language and how it's spoken in different countries, learning about that as well. Because yeah. So I won't go into that depth about that, but we'll move on to the next question, and we're almost reaching the end now. But for you, Muyiwa, what would you say are like your strongest qualities, and from those qualities, which one would you like to teach somebody or pass on to the next generation?
What is my strongest qualities? Like that. Like I would say that is one of those things which always is, I would say, a little bit fluid
Hmm.
because depending on the circumstance, that's when like a quality will come into play. Because like yes, there'll be times where I'll be like circumstances would mean I would have to lead. There'll be
Hmm.
circumstances where I'd have to follow. There'll be circumstances where like yeah, I have to be like more of a diplomat, sometimes be a little bit more aggressive, say. Like
Hmm.
it's one of those things where I would say most probably my strength might come from my fluidity in being able to adapt into those potential moments. Um, but like, yeah, but to just say nail down one key specific thing, I think it's rather difficult for me to just say one thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've been able to be like, as Bruce Lee says, be like water. So yes, take the shape of the circumstance or the situation at that present time.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that answer. I love that answer, and like you said, adapting to different circumstances is important, and I think it in many ways it helps with overcoming what you're facing, and I think I've heard this saying. You might have to confirm this, but like in life, you have to put on different hats. So today you put on the hat where you're a lot more open to what people are telling you, and then on another day you say, okay, you put on a hat where you're focused on one thing that you want to get done, and then on another day, it's always changing, but being able to adapt to the situation, like what Bruce Lee said. I actually, like, when I saw that video for the first time, I was like, wow, Bruce Lee was really ahead of his time. And, he left a lot of wisdom with us that circulates the internet a lot. And, if you're lucky to come across it, or if you look for it, you'll find it 100% of the time. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And, from that, actually, would you say there's anything you're looking to learn or pick up going forward?
Like, this is the thing: learn or pick up along the way. Like, if it was just purely on, like, yes, just things for the podcast, it'll be a case of, yes, know how, like, become a better marketer, pick up those type of skills along the way. If it comes down to sort of personal fitness and development, yeah, I'd like to, like, wow, I'd like to run an ultra marathon at some point in the next couple of years. Uh, do a second marathon, and yeah, see what, like, where I can take my sort of strength and sort of core fitness to next. So yeah, and yeah, and going forward, like, seeing how much of, like, the big one, seeing how much of like a good father potentially I can be. What type of father will I, like, turn out to be? Because I have ideas where I would like to be, but ultimately I don't know if that will be the place I will end up, or there'll be a sort of new, like, I might have some type of new perspective. Because hey, I'm talking, like, I get to talk to lovely people like yourself,
Mhm.
uh, from all around the world, like frig, from basically, yeah, cancer survivors to, like, yeah, friggin' Navy SEALs, and, like, me. Um, I'm getting, like, this sort of richness of knowledge and information and how they've dealt with things, and that, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, like, I can't use all of it, but there's going to be certain aspects which I like, which I already have in my mind, which I say that is where I know as true, and I will either like, there'll be things what will reinforce that truth, or maybe things what will pull that truth down, or build a new truth. I'm not too sure what's going to come up next, but yes, who knows? With the countless people I have conversations with in the near future, uh, how they might help or help me, guide me to grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you there, and I look forward to obviously hearing more and seeing more of your episodes and who you interview for that, and obviously looking forward to you obviously maybe to potentially sometime down the line telling me what your experiences of fatherhood have been like, and what your approaches to different situations are, because like taking in all that different information helps helps everyone, including ourselves, come to a better decision, like in terms of how we want to approach things or do things. From a wealth of knowledge, and comes great understanding, and you're able to respond appropriately to each situation, because not only are you knowledgeable, but you now have somebody who's shared their experience with you. So you've got more information on that. So I'm actually excited to hear how much more you grow over this year and over the next coming years. And, what knowledge you can share with me, potentially 6 months, 9 months, or even 12 months down the line. Who knows? But like in closing, The last question is, what inspiring words would you like to leave with the listeners who've listened to your episode today, who are doing their best to improve themselves?
Well, like I would simply put it like this: do more, be more, do more. Just that simple.
Keeping it simple. Love it. So with that, we've now reached the end of the podcast episode here on the Prince of the North P.O.T.N podcast. I'm your host, Takura, and I'd like to thank my guest, the superstar, the rock star of podcasting, Mr. Muyiwa, for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
The pleasure's all mine. Happy to be here. Smiles all round.
Yes, indeed. Smiles all around. Absolutely. Thank you all for listening in. Be sure to check out the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and all the other platforms where the podcast is readily available. Be sure to check out Muyiwa's podcast as well, Day In and Day Out podcast. I'll include that in the show notes. Thank you all for listening, and till next time, be well and take care. Hey, what's happening, people? It's your boy Takura here, host of the Prince of the North P.O.T.N podcast. Thank you for reaching the end of the episode. Be sure to check out the podcast on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and so many other platforms, including YouTube as well, if you're watching this. The music presented to you at the end of the podcast is by Justin Vinyls featuring The Afrolution, and the song is entitled Whatever the Cost. Thank you all for listening and watching the podcast episode today. Until next time, be well and take care.
Justin Vinyls coming with a no receipt, cause your tax is cheap. Nike Airs on my feet. Yeah, I'm flying by the 100 feet. Justin Vinyls coming with a heat. No receipt, cause your tax is cheap.
Yeah, I tell my paper I'm on a search for the dollar signs. Rent is 1,500, need that by my side. They sympathize, yet I hope to see a better time. I couldn't press rewind when the grind is still hot as iron. Yeah, I'm crossing all the roads, trying to get to Zion. I guess all I ever need is my Caroline. Conversations with myself about getting higher, cause I'll ever show a success people advertising. I say the shit I illustrate is mental aid, but maybe I'm on some shit that just comes with the age. If you're thinking you're the best one, all you ever do is gauge at the competition, bro. That target's further ahead. Looking back to when I was in the Enlightens den. Now I'm that Africa nigga with the tightest grin. Chillin' with the ceiling straight, wondering how shit could be easier, like a first grade. I coloring, I promise. I'm cold cause it's August. I'm smoking on the chronic. My brain is so neurotic. I vomit and vomit. This car fits with beast. I've been starving for weeks, but I'm in love with the peaks I can reach in a blink of an eye. My new regime is to find more positive vibes and multiply. Can't describe the saga that I hold deep within. I'm a 95 nigga. I grind my stories in the gym, boy.
Airs on my feet. Yeah, I'm flying by the 100 feet.
By the 100 feet.
Justin Vinyls coming with a
Now I'm back with that heat, boy.
no receipt.
You ought to talk to him real quick.
Nike Airs on my feet make my cipher so complete. Plus the way they feed my soul, compliment my physique. Plus the way I walk in them, got me feeling like I made it. I don't own a lie yet, but Alicia nigga claimed it as I'm rolling round the streets. Got some people like, damn, how a nigga got that shit. Deep down, I know they proud. It's been a while since I felt so complete. I'm talking about spiritual, physical, mentally. I finally feel free. I think it has to do with passing a time.